We watched WWE Fastlane, October 7th, 2023. I watched this
Crying
show.
out loud, we had a great tag team title. Actually, we had a tag team title change on it. Never mind.
Anyway, I watched the show several hours after it ended, and I still knew zero matches going in. I knew nothing about the show, as I went into it completely blind.
Did anyone watch the press conference?
No.
Eddie here wants to know our reaction to Drunk Cody and Drunk Jay, my new favorite duo.
I did see a clip of Jay.
Was it bad?
It was like 8 seconds long, and he was making lots of noises. I'm not sure any of them were actually words, at least in the English language. A lot of grunting.
But the funny part was
he's happy.
Cody was cracking up the whole time.
Nice.
Over Jay, and I did see that clip on Twitter.
Well, I do want to say this, that I did see a lot of people yesterday making comments about how he was going to get another DUI. That's not Jay, everyone. That's Jimmy.
That's important.
Jimmy is the one that has had multiple DUIs. So I don't think Jay's had any, actually. So he was just drinking. He was happy. He won the tag team titles. That's what happened. Spoiler.
In the opener, it was Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And as I noted, I went into this blind and I laughed because Jey Uso has been in a tag team pretty much his entire career, unless his brother was injured. They just did the split. I guess you can call it a breakup because they didn't really fight. But they did the split. It's time for something new, and so Jey Uso is in a different tag team. Made me laugh. This match ruled. Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes versus the Judgment Day. Damian Priest and Finn Balor are just an awesome heel team. Because Finn is great, but he's also tiny. And so you get that element where you have the small guy taking the beating who tags out to the big giant monster, the scary guy, every time. So you have that obvious dynamic between the two of them. Damian can be the scary guy who works everyone over. Finn can come in and still do awesome stuff. But one of the things he is awesome at is feeding a hot tag into comeback. So they're a natural team. They complement each other perfectly.
Before we go on, I should make a correction that Jey Uso did, in fact, he was arrested for a DUI in 2018.
Okay.
But I think Jimmy is the one with multiple.
Well, hopefully no more in the future for either one of them.
Yes.
The worst thing in this show, by far, is that every time they went to a replay, they played what was supposed to be a race car sound effect. I thought it was an air horn for the first several matches.
Well, I mean, does it matter what it was?
Yeah, it was annoying either way.
Well, if you're annoyed by the sound, that's one thing, but the confusion over the sound, that I cannot abide.
So Finn feeding Cody's hot tag was just awesome stuff, and then Priest and Uso go one-on-one for a while. I enjoyed Corey Graves calling Rhea Ripley a succubus. That was a great line. There's a huge brawl. JD McDonough is out there being a geek. Jay gets it with a briefcase shot, but he kicks out. McDonough tries to hit, I think it was Cody, with the briefcase, but he misses. He hits Damian Priest in the knee with a briefcase. This lets Cody hit Crossroads on the table to lay out Priest. Jay follows with a big dive. Then they're back in the ring hitting Finn with a double team assisted Cody cutter thing that was just absolutely awesome. Would have been an all-time great finish, and then Cody, for some reason, had to hit Crossroads as well, but whatever. Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes are new tag team champions. This is a hell of a match, and the last few minutes were incredibly chaotic and always on the verge of falling into a complete clusterfuck, but somehow never quite got there. There was never too much going on, but there was always a lot going on. Really enjoyed this.
You know the difference between Vince McMahon and Triple H in terms of creative is that one man has no patience whatsoever, and the other man, admittedly at the press conference last night when he was asked about Jade Cargill, he noted that he has a lot of patience. And sometimes you might argue that he has too much patience because things just take forever to get where they're going. But this Damian Priest split, this thing has been teased for months and months and months. And he's hated JD McDonough. Going on probably 2 months now, they started this JD McDonough thing. And McDonough thing has been up and down, up and down, up and down. And finally, here on this show, well, he made a big mistake. And he whacked Priest in the bad knee with that briefcase. And so there were so many things in this match that played into all the storylines that they're doing. The Jey Uso Cody Rhodes thing. Cody's the one who brought him to Raw, and some people aren't happy about that, including Drew McIntyre. But hey, Jay's been on the up and up the entire time. He won the tag titles with Cody. They got drunk. You got the whole thing with the bloodline. Rhea's angry that they've been screwing up here and there. Dom ends up winning the title back on NXT, so now she's happy. But then this happens, all because of JD McDonough, who Finn Balor is a fan of JD McDonough. He wants him in the Judgment Day. Priest wants nothing to do with this guy, but he's tolerant of the guy until this happened.
I bet he won't be now.
And then, of course, he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he wanted to cash in at the end of the show here after the Last Man Standing match. But then Rhea's the one that says, tonight is not... She talks him out of it.
Uh-huh.
So this Damian Priest thing is coming to a head, but it's been going on months. They've been doing this tease. So there is a great deal of patience. And really, if you look at this pay-per-view, if there's one criticism of it, it's that this guy has so much patience that we had a show where virtually nothing happened.
Well, that is true.
It's like the show ended, and it's like, all right, what do we got going here?
Well, there's new tag team champions.
Nothing. I'm talking about the main event.
Nothing.
Seth beats Nakamura for the upteenth time.
Yeah.
He retains his belt, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. And you know what's next? A video package. And then we get a video package, and so I have no idea what's next for that guy. I have no idea what's next for a lot of these guys, because it's just take your time, especially until the Royal Rumble.
So I don't know which member of the production team put together the announcers table this evening, but this thing would not budge all evening. They tried multiple spots on it. It never broke. This guy needs to be commended and given some sort of raise.
Finally, in the main event, it finally did.
It did finally in the main event.
Yeah.
Also, Rhea Ripley, well, I'll just say it. She was hitting on Jay.
Yeah, that's the storyline. The storyline
was
from the day that Jay showed up on Raw, him and Rhea have been exchanging glances. But then she screwed him here, figuratively.
That's true.
She tried to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there was some woo being pitched, and Jay was okay with it,
Woo-being.
and also gave some back. So
And
I
hey,
want-
you know,
I want to see
people
where this goes.
people have been asking, what the hell are you going to do with Cody from now until the Royal Rumble? Well, now you know. He's one half of the tag team champions, which, by the way, even though there's really not much of a brand split anymore, in theory, he can show up on SmackDown whenever he wants.
That's
now,
true.
Which means him and Cody could be back in the Bloodline feud for the time being.
So before we move on, two little history notes.
The match was great, by the way.
Match was great.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Has
Best match on
anyone
the show.
has anyone gone through the list of Cody Rhodes championship tag team partners? It's
No.
kind of amazing to look back. In WWE alone, the man has now won tag team titles with Drew McIntyre, Goldust, Jey Uso, Hardcore Holly, Ted DiBiase Jr., and Damian Sandow. And if you add in other promotions, you can also add in Ethan Page and Shawn Spears. There's a long list of men he has teamed with and succeeded with.
Hardcore Holly threw me off.
Yes, that's how he came up to the main roster. And there was a line here. One of the announcers said Cody and Jay, longtime enemies, now tag team champions. I thought, when the hell were they longtime enemies? They had one match last year as opponents on opposite sides of an 8-man tag. Before that, the last time they faced off against each other was another 8-man tag in 2016.
Well, sure, but the whole Cody Roman Reigns feud.
Was it Cody Roman Reigns feud? They never fought.
Well,
I'm sure Cody and Jay had a brawl.
well, yeah, but I mean, he was part of the Bloodline, so I'm sure he screwed him multiple times.
The Street Profits and Bobby Lashley versus the LWO and a mystery partner.
You know, it's weird when you don't watch WWE for a long time and you come back and all of a sudden the Street Profits are heels and Bobby Lashley is wrestling again. Nuts.
I thought the Street Profits are way better as heels, honestly.
What?
I thought so.
You're
I
the
don't-
one
they were
guy
really-
on the face of the planet that think that this has been a positive for the Street Profits.
They were good at being heels, though.
Montez
Well, I
is
mean, they're
wrong with
fine
that.
at being heels, but like Montez's best stuff is high flying.
that's
babyface
true,
stuff.
but except he also does that sell where he squeals and
Well,
whines, yes.
sure. I mean, if you get that, it makes you heated.
And he has and they
But-
both have a natural arrogance.
But they also are both natural baby faces. Dawkins' best thing by miles was his babyface comeback. Now he doesn't have that anymore. They put him in a suit. A suit.
He's wrestling in a
Yeah.
singlet.
They don't have their cups anymore. They don't have their
Well,
music
that's
anymore.
probably a loss. That's probably a loss.
It's like they became New Japan Young Boys. You just stripped everything away from them, and now they're just going to start over again, which is the opposite of the way it's supposed to go.
So it turns out to be at least to start, a handicap match instead with Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. And
because the story is that they were triple teamed, and so on SmackDown, Santos said, "What are we going to do against these three guys?" Rey goes, "I got a guy. Let me get my phone." And then on the pre-show, Rey explains to Santos Escobar. He doesn't tell him the guy. He goes, "I texted him. I got a red response. I know he read it, but he didn't respond."
Cool.
Which actually, when you think about who it ended up being, that's a lazy man.
Yes.
To not respond to the message but read it. So so they just started, like this, and then the fucking lazy guy shows up at the end, literally to make a comeback and make his money and win.
That is exactly what happened.
That's what happened.
They beat up Santos for about 5 minutes. They're beating up Rey for about 15 minutes. At some point, they yank Santos off the apron so Rey can't tag out. Rey looks hopeless and helpless, actually. And then music hits, but it's new music. What is the point of bringing back a nostalgia act if you change everything about him?
Because you gotta get whatever. This song
Maybe
was
he's
not
okay
as old
with-
as his old song,
No.
that's for sure.
No.
Maybe he's okay with people that don't want to be cool now.
Actually, he doesn't say that anymore. Now the song is like,
that's what I
"Do you
mean."
know what cool means?" I was like, I think so. Is this a trick question?
The opposite of warm.
And then this
Not quite cold.
bloke comes out, and like they're going on and on about how he looks better than ever and all this. And I'm like, he looks like the Carlito you would see on the indie scene a decade after he left WWE. And now he's here. And like they liked him and all. Like he's got the hair. But I just watched this and I was like, all right, well, he's back.
So he comes down after letting these guys get their asses kicked for 15 minutes. He gets the tag. He does like 3 things, and he pins Ford with a backstabber. And Rey and Santos are like, "Hey, we're so happy to see you after you left us hanging to die for 15 minutes. But hey, in the end, you showed up. You ate your apple and you came on down or whatever."
This was anticlimactic to me because the last thing I saw on WWE TV is Ray and Dragon Lee. So I figured Dragon Lee was coming in.
No. It did make absolutely no sense on SmackDown, where Dragon Lee got a big win, and they were pushing him as this great, and even like Ray had endorsed him and everything, and then Ray goes, "I got a guy," and it's like, okay, well, it's going to be Dragon Lee. But then it wasn't Dragon Lee. It was Carlito. I just don't know what you do with Carlito, dude. Carlito's like...
Is this not a one-time thing? Is
No,
he gonna be-
he's
He's not
signed.
signed. No.
Yes, he is signed.
Gotta be kidding me.
I didn't believe it either. But he is signed.
So they cut a bunch of people and then signed Carlito.
Yeah.
Nobody. It gets better. He's been signed for months.
Okay. He got that one giant pop in Puerto Rico, and they said, "We got to sign this guy full-time."
Apparently they made a deal a little later, and then he did absolutely nothing until this show.
Okay.
I mean, hey, if I had billions of dollars, I'd pay him to show up once or twice a year, and then not show up for a long time afterwards. That's fine.
Well, he's under contract. Have him show up all the time. That's what he's supposed to do.
Well, there's a lot of people under contract, but like you got to put the best people under contract on the show all the time. Nothing against the guy,
fair.
but like, what are you gonna do with Carlito?
I don't know.
I have no
What are you
idea.
gonna do with the guy?
Maybe he can challenge Roman.
I mean, no, he's not gonna challenge Roman. Okay,
He'll
he's not.
challenge, maybe he'll challenge Gunther.
No,
Oh,
I mean, they may build up. To
I
him
got all
getting,
kinds of terrible ideas.
They may build up to him getting beaten by Gunther. That's possible.
Charlotte Flair versus Asuka versus Io Sky. I'm actually going to start my review here by reading the last thing I wrote about this match. This was a good match, but I will have forgotten almost all of it by the time I wake up tomorrow.
That is exactly what it was, because it was a spot fest.
Yes.
yeah.
It was just, and the moves were great, but it was big move, big move, big move, big move, big move, all the way until Bayley showed up, and then they did a finish.
Yeah, yep. The spat missed in Charlotte's eyes, and she was back wrestling 3 minutes later, so that didn't matter.
like right off the bat, too.
Yeah.
It was weird.
They did a Tower of Doom spot where the person on top, which is Charlotte, did a Samoan drop instead of a powerbomb. That's a new one. Been seeing Tower of Doom spots for 20 years. Haven't seen that one before, so good move there. Bayley comes out, and the finish was not clear to me at first. On replay, it was very clear. So here's what happened. Bayley takes the ref. Charlotte puts Asuka in the figure 8, and Asuka is tapping, but the referee can't see it because Bayley has him. And then Io hits a moonsault on Charlotte and pins her to retain the title. It was a fun match, and that's all I have to say.
I watch these and I take notes, although I didn't take notes for a few shows this weekend because of extenuating circumstances I might talk about someday, but not today. But anyway, sometimes I just write down moves.
I do that a lot.
Like, what I try to do is, okay, what's the point? Like, what's the story? But with this one, I just kept writing down moves. I write down like 1,000 words of moves, and then when it's over, I was like, well, I mean, they were cool moves and all, but this was certainly not a match that, like, told a great story or whatever. It was just like, okay, you three are having a three-way. Make it cool. You got 18 minutes or whatever. And then, Io's going to go over. Here's the finish. And that's what they did. And, like, it was fun and all, but it wasn't, like, anything you're going to remember the next day. And even that stacked up superplex I thought was awesome, but I forgot about it till you mentioned it.
Yeah, the only thing I remember about the match is the Io moonsault to the outside, which looked like it totally missed everybody. And then Charlotte's moonsault. Miss Charlotte's a larger in stature girl, and she comes off the top rope, and that moonsault is absolutely gorgeous. But it was just move, and yeah, it was fine, but whatever.
You're not wrong. John Cena and LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa.
Oh my God. Do you remember when we were talking about that MJF match at the pay-per-view and how, as a heel, he did all of the things that, like, you weren't supposed to do anymore in 2023, cheap heat, this and that, but it worked because nobody does it anymore. And then now that he's a babyface, he's just doing all of the tropes that, like, no one does anymore, and so it's over. This John Cena. This John Cena is an aging rock band. This is Pearl Jam playing some famous Pearl Jam song over and over again on concert. He just goes out there to play the hits. Like,
they don't.
The whole point of this
Poison's
guy.
a better example.
The whole point of this guy, this match, was to get over LA Knight. And so John Cena starts the match and gets beaten up, and they get the heat, and LA Knight never even tags until the hot tag. And all he does is run wild until giving the big tag or the big shot at Cena to do the 5-knuckle shuffle, and then he hits his BFT gimmick and he gets the win. But, like, John Cena in this match is just like, he came back at the end of December. He came back at the end of the year for SmackDown. I was on I was at wherever I was at, Disney or something, because I remember watching it on my iPad. But man, he came back for a SmackDown main event, and I think he had like 30 seconds in the match, and literally it was just, he got a hot tag and played the hits. And at the time I laughed, because like the crowd just ate it up. But now he's at the point where he doesn't just play the hits, but he plays the hits with the volume turned up to 20. So when he notices that the guy is down for the 5-knuckle shuffle, he has to stand as tall as possible and look at and look the other way and the other way, and then and like he does everything like an animated version of John Cena, and the people eat it up. He's doing a total parody of himself, and he's more over than he's ever been. My God, he did this fucking comeback. I was howling at how preposterously over the top it was, but the fans don't get that it's over the top. They're just dying to see him do all this stuff. And then, LA Knight got the win and everything like that. And I don't want to say that LA didn't get over big because the point was to do that, but man, just watching John Cena, it's like, what a fucking cartoon this guy is. But he's great!
Well, the thing about this was you couldn't miss him because this was the John Cena show. Mm-hmm. He started the match. They got the heat on him before LA Knight ever tagged him. They beat him up. They teased the hot tag forever. It's not like John Cena doesn't know how to run a tag match. I will say that John Cena shouting out spots in full sentences at the top of his lungs will never not make me laugh.
That's his gift.
We're going to do a desperation tag spot. Cut me off before I get there. I howl with laughter every time.
I was dying at the one where he was flat on his back and he's looking up and shouting instructions, and the cameraman has got his camera right on his face as he blurts out the whole sentence, and then all of a sudden John kind of looks at the camera sideways, and the camera quickly zooms out. My gosh.
Oh my God. So it's eventually, finally, they get the hot tag to LA Knight. He gets a huge ovation. He does like 3 things. Grandpa Cena gets Solo up for an AA. He gets the 5-knuckle shuffle. LA's legal. So John hits his finish. It's the 5-knuckle shuffle. And then he turns and stands he's in fighting pose, right? Ready to, if somebody breaks at the pin. And LA hits the, what do you call it? His finish, whatever it's called. And he makes the cover. And he gets the 3. And this is supposed to be a nice moment. But you can't stop watching John Cena, because as soon as the ref counts 3, Cena turns around and leaps 18 feet in the air.
Oh, yeah.
He's so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, LA got a huge ovation when he tagged in, and there was one point during his comeback where he did the cool jump up on the top rope superplex spot, but he was along for the ride here. He was the guest star of this week's John Cena show.
Some of the most over guys in this business are taking this so far back that I'm considering coming out of retirement again. My day will come. Yes. Just the oldest school shit is getting over now.
John's in this weird stage right now where his face is getting older. Obviously, his hair is getting older, but he's still got a great body.
But even his physique is getting older.
By John Cena standards.
Yes.
Yeah.
In certain spots, like he's getting a little, he's got a little bit of a love handle now, but his arms are still jacked, and he's growing up through his hair on the top and the back there, and it's not like he looks bad, but pretty soon he's gonna look bad.
Wow.
Well, he is. I mean, that's all there is to it.
I think he looks great.
He'll look just fine for a long, long time. You have
Just shave your head, brother.
You have to make a few different grooming choices, but he's going to look just fine.
Yeah, the pompadour is not the one I would go with.
But he's an actor. He can cover that up for scenes. He needs hair for his acting career.
Yes.
Has anybody wrestled in a hat all full time?
I feel like somebody has. Or maybe it's just part of a mask. Super Kalo would have a hat on his mask.
Maybe he can be Jewish.
Okay, Yamaka?
Sure.
Can we get moving?
Seth Rollins versus Shinsuke Nakamura in the last
God, that was longer than this match.
I did laugh. The very first thing this crowd did was to start chanting for tables. So Seth obliges. And then, in the end, like this turned into a pretty good last man standing match because basically Seth Rollins went through like 8 tables over the course of the match. And the first one, the fans were like, "Yay, we finally got a table spot." The second one was like, "Oh boy, a second table spot." And by the third, like, man, this guy's got a bad back. Should he be going through all these tables?
Not just that, but dude, he's got a legit broken back. He's had it forever. Like, it's not going to heal. And he's fucking taking backdrops on the cement.
Yeah.
They peeled the mats away so they could do a backdrop on the cement. And I don't know, man. If I had a bad back like that, like, I would claim that I had a bad knee. I'd have people work over something that wasn't hurt. Not something where my back is actually broken. So you know what? To convince the fans that I don't even know what, because you didn't convince them it's real, but like to get the fans into the match, why don't you backdrop my broken fucking back on cement? That'll get some heat for this match. And then he goes through a bunch of tables. The best was when he took that bump off the thing in the crowd onto the trampoline.
Yeah.
And they tried to make it clever by setting up a hard cam so you couldn't actually see what he landed on. But the problem was you couldn't see what he landed on, but you could see him bounce. And he bounced.
Not
and
to
then
mention
rolled off to
everybody's
the
got.
floor.
Not to mention everybody in the crowd's got a camera, and so it ended up online like minutes afterwards.
Yes, that stuff happens.
So it was a recap or a repeat in many ways of Seth's wife match from the NXT show. Corey Graves noted this is a family business these days, just getting a crap ton of weapons and hitting each other with them, including nunchaku. Shinsuke Nakamura, apparently like all Japanese, we're led to believe, is a ninja and uses nunchucks.
No throwing stars though.
No throwing stars this week. No. I did like when Seth pulled out a ladder and Shin just ran away. Just ran for his life. But they keep fighting. There's a point where Seth is down. The crowd is trying to encourage him by singing. And many people like it. One person is taking the words right out of my mouth when he screams, "Shut up with that goddamn song!"
I wasn't there.
So Shin does a double knee drop off the top rope to a table on the floor. That was terrible for both guys.
It was cool looking though.
No, it was cool looking, unless you're like a doctor. But Seth got to his feet there. They both end up climbing the ladder. Shin spits red mist in Seth's face. Seth bounces, falls off the ladder. That was where he went through the announce desk. That was like table number 2. Mm-hmm. There was a Kinshasa through a table in the ring. That was table number 3. Then they go out and there's like a Falcon Arrow through tables, and there's more stuff. And they were doing my idea I had a week or two ago when I said I would just, if I was a promoter, I would just go through 200 tables in one match until these fans began to chant no more tables. They were doing my idea, only it didn't work. The crowd never got sick of the tables. And so finally, there was a Falcon Arrow off of whatever platform they were on through 2 tables. Both guys went through. Shin could not get to his feet. Seth got up at 10 and then immediately collapsed. Okay, this is in a vacuum a really good match, and told a great story of Seth overcoming his injury and a very dangerous challenger to beat him again. Now what?
Well, you got to tune in tomorrow, brother.
You still got a champion.
You got to tune in tomorrow
with a terrible back.
Well, his back will heal. You see.
Magically,
yeah,
is not injured now. This is a program.
Well, I mean, the storyline they told was that he'd had a bad back for years, but it just now recently started hurting when Nakamura mentioned it.
I see.
So it's one of those things where they'll move on to something else and concentrate on something else, and they'll hope you forget about his back. I presume that's where they're going. Or eventually, someone will break his back and win the title. That also could happen at some point here.
Well, in hindsight, Rhea should have let.
But that's the point. That's the storyline.
Yeah.
Priest is going to break away. And so this is another thing for him to be furious about, which is this was my chance to cash in, and they stopped me from doing so. So, yes, Priest wanted to cash in after a last man standing match, but he was prevented from doing so. I thought the match was by WWE last man standing matches, which usually bore me half to death. I think Edge is probably still angry about that review of that WrestleMania match. But anyway, this was better.
Yes.
It was.
They
and
shorter. Well, they kept the counting to a minimum. Like, they counted a lot, but it wasn't like, it's going to take 35 seconds to count to 9. It was like, this ref was fucking counting. And they got to their feet, and they kept going. I thought this was, for this style of match, I thought it was a good one.
And barely watching WWE nowadays, coming back to a pay-per-view every now and then, usually I'm pleasantly surprised. This one I'm just kind of indifferent about. It was fine. It was fine.
Everything was good. Nothing was bad. And if you missed it, you didn't miss much.
Except you go back and watch that first match. That was tremendous.
The opening tag was very good.
Yeah.
We also watched AEW Collision, also October 7th.